Hi, I am Nicole Coleman, and I work in the communications department as well as volunteer with the high school ministry here at Heights Church. Welcome to another devotional. Our thread for this series is Jesus is the God of the impossible, and we have been discussing the 7 miracles Jesus performed in the Gospel of John. Today, we are going to be focusing on the time that Jesus raised Lazarus of Bethany from the dead 4 days after he had been entombed. I will summarize the story and reference key scriptures from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, scriptures 1 through 44. Here we go. So, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus are 3 adult siblings from Bethany who are friends and followers of Jesus. Lazarus had gotten really sick, and his sisters Mary and Martha sent for Jesus, who is across the Jordan. Jesus' response to their situation seems surprisingly nonchalant. In John 11, 5 through 6, it says, "Though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was." Jesus expresses confidence that Lazarus' illness will not lead to death, but rather to the glory of God. Yet by the time Jesus finally gets to Bethany, Lazarus is already dead and buried, and his body had even started to decompose. Martha and Mary greet him separately, but with the same sad words. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." They ask questions like, "Where were you, Jesus? And why did you take so long getting here? And I thought you loved my brother, and I thought you cared about us." It's deep questions. Some of the neighbors gathered also asking among themselves, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Let's take a pause and think about this. Aren't these exactly the kinds of questions we want to ask, or we do ask, when something bad happens? Where were you, Lord? How could you have let this happen? Could you have prevented this? Now let's go back. Jesus does not reprimand Martha or Mary or their friends for what they have said or their doubts. In 11:23, he responds to Martha with a promise: "Your brother will rise again." After Martha confirms her belief in the resurrection on the last day, 25-26, Jesus responds with another promise: "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die." Jesus is referring and pointing to the future resurrection, which is bringing hope and promises that the eternal life that he promises is about to begin. John tells us in 11:33 that when Jesus saw Mary weeping and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. Then, after asking where Lazarus was laid, Jesus himself began to weep. Jesus does not always answer all the questions that we might wish he would. He doesn't explain to Mary and Martha and all those grieving why he didn't come sooner and prevent Lazarus from dying. But it is clear that he is completely and ultimately with them in their pain and loss, deeply moved and feeling real grief. Of course, Jesus does more than just share the pain, he also acts, right? So when they come to the tomb, he says, "Take away the stone." The stone is taken away. And after repeating his promise that this would all lead to the glory of God and praying out loud for the benefit of the crowd, Jesus cries, "Lazarus, come out." And obediently, Lazarus comes out of the tomb. "Unbind him and let him go," Jesus commands. This scene recalls earlier statements of Jesus that promise the hour is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice and will come out, 5:28-29. And also that the shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out, 10:3. Jesus had seemed so slow in coming, and it seemed as if it was too late. But with Jesus, we find out it is never too late. Even when we are convinced that all is lost, Jesus demonstrates that there is no loss, no tragedy, no power that can pull us away from his infinite love and abundant life. I know a lot of the time it does not feel like death has been defeated. I get it. Like Martha and Mary, we cry out in pain and ask our questions about job loss, about family struggles, financial crisis, chronic illness, loss of loved ones, war, and so on. Remember that even as we cry out, we wait in hope. Like Martha and Mary, we learn that God does not act exactly how we think God should act. But God will act in God's good timing, and death will not have the final word. The day of resurrection will come. I encourage you all to take these words to heart and know that Jesus is your friend, and he calls you out by name. And nothing is impossible through him. We may not understand his plans, but he always has our best in mind. I hope you will read the Gospel of John, and I pray it will challenge you to dig deeper in your walk with Jesus. Thank you all for listening, and have a great week.